Welcome to this webinar. It's Advaya webinar, which is focused on how can we use business analytics. That is, it's known as in many different ways, business intelligence, reporting, analytics, dashboarding, whatnot. But then how do we use the power of data to improve, increase, and enhance sales? So it's a very short webinar. We of course would be happy to discuss with you as later, but then we would be very quickly talking about how do we think is the is a good way of looking at analytics and how does it apply to sales function. We will take a look at a few examples, and we would try and see if there is a way which we can suggest to you in terms of how to operationalize that. And of course, we would be then open to questions and so on. So I am Manish. Welcome and good afternoon. I am the CEO at Advaya. I'm particularly passionate about the way in which we can build data-driven organizations, the digital transformation initiatives that organizations can take, which can drive organizations with the power of data, and that's a particular interest to me. And with me is Deepesh.
Good afternoon, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here. So my job role is that I am business analytics practice, and I'm really deeply interested in various tools and technologies which are data driven and which can help us and everyone to make the sense out of their data.
Great. So before we get into the presentation and get into the aspects that we want to discuss, very quickly the ground rules. We have planned around 45 minutes of presentation. We have spent a few minutes waiting for everyone to join in, but then we would be quick. We would have a few minutes for questions and answers. And of course, if you believe that you would want to take the discussion offline at some other point, please email us. Please get in touch with whatever way. We would be happy to answer, and we would be keeping everyone else at mute through the session so that there is no background noise that comes in. But then at the end of the when we start with the question answers, we will open it up so that we can have a discussion. At all points of time, please feel free to ping us with a question, with a comment, or if there is anything that you want to talk about there via IM, we would try and look at it and address that as soon as possible. In any case, we are recording this, and the recording would be shared with all of us. And let me just quickly check if the recording is happening. Yes, it is. So that's, and one more thing, we would be sharing a small survey with you, a very quick survey, and as you fill the survey, we are offering a free 1-hour Power BI briefing and a workshop for you. Now that workshop is a quick way of looking at how we can think of relevant uses of BI in your organization, specific to, customized to your organization, and what could be possible roadmap. So it's a quick discussion, it's a quick briefing, but in our experience, pretty insightful. Okay. So quickly, something about our company. At Advaya, our purpose in life is making technology work. And what it really means is we help in terms of implementing digital transformation initiatives for our clients, which enhance decision making, which leads to better customer experiences, more productivity, and overall allow companies and organizations to innovate with technology. How do we do it? We believe that any digital transformation initiative is essentially about bringing applications and analytics together. And the way to do it, in our opinion, and it has been borne by experience as well, is to think of this in terms of 4 steps. Information strategy is about looking at a particular context, your business context, your technology context, your people context, and looking at what are the gaps, what are the opportunities where technology can be used for something positive, for gaining more value, and creating a roadmap to the transformation doesn't happen in one day in one step. So doing a roadmap is an important part of that. That's followed by implementing and adopting technologies, solutions, applications which facilitate processes, which facilitates data access, which facilitates creation of accessible and understandable data stores, and doing it with quality, within time, within budget, and that's something that we do when we call it as an implementation stage. The key aspect of that is that whole technology should allow relevant insights, reports, visibility into your business, into the context of your business. And that, we believe, while it's an outcome of all that we do, it has to be done specifically and in a particular way which is suited and tailored for your organization. But then things don't stop there. The power of technology today means that we can use all of the automation, all of this data in such a way that we are able to draw deeper insights. We are able to see patterns. We are able to use machine learning. We are able to use artificial intelligence to drive inferences as well as intelligent actions, and then create certain automations which make your business far more faster, agile, and data driven. Now, we are a Microsoft Gold partner. We have a deep analytics practice, but then we also have expertise and a very successful practice as regards cloud, project portfolio management, collaboration and content, and application development. And we are also working with lots of other leading technologies as well. So that's quickly about us. But then coming to the topic of today, sales analytics. Now, you all are seasoned practitioners and you must be bombarded with these promises, sales analytics, what can happen through sales, you can use this and that and all that. Now, all of this hype tends to show, they kind of, put the things in such a way that, okay, it is all about throwing some analytics or some BI technology in the soup and somehow the magic would happen. But in reality, the truth is, most businesses are not data driven. Most businesses have become successful with their practices and processes which are not really data driven. We do not really know how to use data.
So also along with this, there are other things which are really important, like the relevant data source is generally not available in real world examples. So the data is always scattered and unstructured, and it is scattered at multiple data sources. So actually there is no single source of truth which we can really rely and work upon.
So that becomes a major challenge, and at times when we actually end up collecting all the data, analyzing it and do it, it could be too late. At the same time, analytics for analytics sake doesn't really make sense. We should be able to drive right actions, right decisions across the organization through what has been done. So it has to be purposeful. At the same time, data analytics and everything could be very daunting. It could be reams and reams and lines of numbers. That data has to be available in the way which allows comprehension of it, the reading and making sense of that data easy for all concerned, whether it is executives in your organization, the managers, the salespeople on the field. Everyone should be able to make sense of it, and then that's what makes it difficult. So what really we have to think about is how do we actually do it. Now, sales analytics, of course, has a big promise. Of course, there are lots of challenges, but then we believe that we have to think of what is the purpose of analytics and what is the purpose of any analytics initiative that you're taking. So at a very high level, at level of abstraction, if you think about it, you need analytics for perhaps visibility. You want to know what's going on. You want to know what is. So visibility is one major purpose. The other purpose would be control, where you want to compare it with your plans. You want to ensure compliance to certain regulations or certain standards or norms within an organization. You want to check salesperson targets against actuals and so on. So control becomes a major objective. Then there's decision making. What does the data tells in terms of the story? What is the trend? What needs to be done? What would happen if certain action is done? How do you choose amongst the various options? What are the alternatives? So decision making becomes the is important. And the way we can actually look at it is in a very practical way. When we talk about sales, what does it mean? Sales in an organization is actually a lot of things. There are a lot of things. There are a lot of functions within sales that have to happen.
So, for example, channel management, which is one of the most important of operations of sales. So here, what we really want to find out is we want to have the visibility of our partners, how our partners have been performing, and we might want to have certain interventions for them, and we might want to decide which particular region or geographies we should put them into.
So recruitment or monitoring. So there is a whole lot of actions in decision making. Yeah. So yes, I mean, again, it is about visibility, control, and decision making. And you can actually think about any of the sales functions and look at in the context of your own organization, your own context, your context of your market, your products, and see what is really needed. And that's, we believe, is a great way of operationalizing analytics. Identify what's the purpose, identifying that purpose by the function. So we are not talking about disrupting in a big way. We are not talking about rip apart and build a new kind of an analytics thing. We are talking about how do you do what you do better with analytics. So how do we actually do it? If we actually lift the hood and take a look at it, much of all that we have talked about, various functions and the various purposes, they rely on data and information that lies in multiple places. Your ERP or your accounting system would have revenue information, would have product information, inventory, and so on. CRM systems would have customer information, would have information about various transactions or various activities which are happening with the customers, the leads, the opportunities, the web leads which are coming in, and so on, as well as various partner channels which are there, which would be there in a CRM, and you would have some kind of a marketing automation also happening. Which campaign, which audience, what's the kind of response that is there, what kind of products and promotions which have been put in and so on. At the same time, if you think about it, if we actually look at it, much of the sales data is lying in systems and the stores which are unstructured. All of us use tons of spreadsheets. There is information about accounts, about customers, about products which are which are unstructured, which are insights, which are in our minds, which are probably there in some conversations, emails, and so on. So there's a lot of data of that type as well, which is relevant. At the same time, we would be interested in knowing what else outside of our organization which might be relevant. What's happening across the industry? What's the total? What's happening in the market? The surveys, the market research that you might have. So all of that data has to come together.
So basically, the whole sales analytics cycle, how this performs is like we combine and have all of these different data sources, and we kind of extract them into a single place. Then we do data cleaning, we transform our data, we prepare our data in such a manner that it is much more readable, and we can create a single model out of our data, which we can use for presenting and creating dashboards and visualizations, and have a good overview of how actually our raw data looks like when presented in a good manner.
So that makes the data more meaningful and useful. So in that process, and the way in which this whole data gets modeled, and when the data comes together, it also enables higher order technologies to play their magic. That data, which has a whole lot of transactions and a whole lot of rows of past behavior, that can be used to infer patterns, that can be used to predict what could happen, what could be there for a particular account, for a particular market, for a particular segment, for a particular product. And we can also add to it some kind of an automation. So data and our insights and our consumption of insights should lead to certain actions right away. So as we look at this, maybe it's a great idea to take a look at some of the possible examples. So here we are. So okay, this is one. This is one dashboard which allows us to do some kind of analysis, and this particular analysis is very much driven by predictive analytics, which is very much driven by what the newer analytics technologies with aid of machine learning algorithms, for example, can actually do from the data that they have.
So basically this dashboard is created from multiple data sources. So we have different financial systems having a lot of transactions, some ERP based systems, and there are a lot of data sources which are available, from which we have kind of created a model, and then we have put them into this dashboard. So what basically this dashboard is showing us is, it tells us what really has happened so far in the previous years, and what really we can gain out of it, what potential we have in future. So it basically tells us about there are various products, and it tells us about how many accounts there have been, what are the various categories, and based on that, what is basically the potential which is there.
So if you look at this kind of analysis, generally, one of the key things that we are trying to do here is think in terms of what's the potential in a particular account, and does that potential translate, and that potential translates into what category or what product category. Now here, what this model has really done is taken a look at not just the account, but then the account metadata there. Account metadata there in a sense, in things like what industry it is in, what size it is in, what has been the consumption patterns in the past. Based on that and the patterns there, it tries to forecast what could be the sales in that account by a particular product. And it also takes into account the historical trends by product and for the account overall, to see how that potential translates into various periods. Now that becomes very useful for the purpose of sales forecasting, very useful in terms of really aligning our resources, aligning our efforts for a particular account, for a particular time period, for a particular for a particular product. Now that's the magic of data, that's the magic of analytics for you. And of course, this is a very hypothetical example, but then we have done projects where we have looked at account patterns, we have looked at product patterns, we have looked at historical patterns and combined them to create very reliable forecasting models. So that's one example. The other thing which all of us in sales function we really are involved in is taking a look at overall performance of our sales team. We need to look at how our various geographies are performing, what's happening with the account targets across those geographies, and who are the salespeople there, how are they performing against the target. So if we think about it, as we talked about, this dashboard actually combines the three purposes of data very nicely. It gives us visibility into what is happening. It does have elements of control to it in the sense we are actually able to look at what was the target, what was the plan, and what has been the actual against that by geography, by time, by accounts, and we take some good decisions about it. And
again, so this is a sales team management dashboard. So again, the data is coming from a variety of data sources. So the data is coming from the HR team management and the other systems from where the whole data of our
So if you take a look at it, when it talks about a particular salesperson, it talks about what has been the profile of that salesperson as well. So it leverages data from HR systems, it leverages data from CRM, it leverages data from the planning spreadsheets and the budgeting spreadsheets that have been created. Now, combining them allows us to do some interesting insights. So, for example, if you take a good look at Massachusetts as a region and you drill it down, one of the things that you clearly see here is much of the accounts in that region, they look to be of a manufacturing segment. But then we have here Nancy, who is kind of struggling to make her targets, but it is also apparent that she has expertise in construction. Now, but then at the same time, if you look at one another region, let's say Connecticut, we have 3 salespeople, and all of them are doing well. But at the same time, we find that we have a salesperson who is great at in manufacturing as well. Perhaps it's a good idea to actually assign Yuan to Massachusetts. So again, it's all hypothetical. It's all just an example. But then the idea that here is our analytics and our business analytics should be something which allows us to make a decision and take action right there. So here, let's assign Yuan to Massachusetts as well. So that way, in that region, we have more salespeople working now, and perhaps we would be able to meet target. Perhaps addition of Yuan to that team would help Nancy learn more and get more insights about the manufacturing sector. That's a target. So again, how do we use the combination of visibility, control, and decision making in the same dashboard? And now that could be very powerful, bringing in data from multiple sources. If we think of how an individual salesperson would be able to make use of data, that is a great example. We have here a dashboard, a salesperson dashboard, which where a salesperson can actually keep it open all the time and see what's going on, and be helped by all the data and all the analytics that is in there. If you look at it, there are overall numbers, there are aspects about accounts, there are aspects about pipeline, there is a whole lot of what leads are there, and then so on and so forth. This dashboard allows the salesperson to align his or her activities and his or her sales motions better.
And at the same time be more effective in planning his future engagements. As you can see that for this particular salesperson, we have a good overall idea of his average sales, the pipeline value, how many days it took for him to close a deal, and what is the average conversion percent. So this particular salesperson, one method is basically dealing with these n number of accounts. So if we want to see for one particular account, let's say this account, we would be able to get some really good insights of how this have been performing in the past. So if you take a look at the average sales of Australian collector, it's like 25K, and the sales cycle basically runs for let's say for a month or something, and there is a good success rate of 80%. So this basically tells us, based from the historical data, the model which we have created explains us how good this particular account has been performing. And of course, based on that, the model which we have generated has created and provided us some sort of recommendations that what should be the next action items or next steps for this account. So
this is one more example where we can actually leverage the power of machine learning and power of predictive analytics in a great way. Now, one of the things that we have tried to do for some of our customers is to build machine learning models which actually take a look at previous data about accounts, about products, and tries to see if there is a particular lead, or if a particular pipeline, a particular lead in a pipeline is behaving in a particular way, what really should be the probability, what is the model that says. Now, in most organizations, it's the salesperson, based on his or her intuition, based on what the manager thinks, ascribes a probability to that deal. Now, here what we have also tried to do is compute a probability based on the past data and the intelligence that the model could learn from. So there is a gap, and when we take a look at that gap, it probably tells us a story. It tells us that this particular deal has already taken a long time, much beyond the what generally is the average for that kind of a particular thing, and it still hasn't got to a level where the product demo has happened. So based on what has worked for these kind of deals in the past, the model actually suggests that there is this action should be taken. Now that allows the salesperson not just to apply his or her own intuition and learning, but also adds the power of machine learning. So in this way, the artificial intelligence, the data, the analytics are actually complementing the salesperson to do better, to do more, to sell more. So that's the kind of possible views, possible ways. And in all of these dashboards and all of these reports that we just showed, you would see that these are pretty interactive, that allow us to do analysis, drill down, to make it better, to make better sense of it in a very intuitive way. You don't need to be somebody with a very high numerical quotient to be able to make sense of it. The design of these, they make it very actionable as well. Now that's the key when we talk about how do we actually make our analytics in such a way that they make sense and they actually add value. So while there is a lot that goes into doing right kind of analytics, there is this aspect of making sure that they are consumable, they are readable, and they are actionable, which are important. So now we have done that very quickly. We would want to show some of the other stuff that you might find very useful in terms of sales effectiveness. So pipeline management is one of the key functions again. Now, pipeline management for most, now if you see this kind of a visualization, this, of course, this coming from CRM systems, this of course has a lot of data points from about customers, about the leads and opportunities, also about what's the kind of revenue that has been there, what is the kind of activities that have been taken. Now, if you look at it, and it's something which is very typical of lots of organizations, is much of the forecasted close is if the kind of they are bulldozed to the end of the quarter, and that really plays havoc with the peace of mind of sales managers and the CEOs. How do we smoothen that out? So if you look at the calendar, we do see that there is a problem. But then if we actually look at the top left report, pipeline, where we are talking about the opportunity stage, we see that the pipeline is not really smooth across the products and across that. So we do realize here that much of our pipeline is kind of stuck at the mutual interest stage. While that's not a bad thing. When we think about opportunity size here, and when we look at opportunity size buckets, much of the opportunities are of the higher side. Now that adds a bit of a risk to the play, which really means that we will need to speed up some aspect. So when we think of these kind of visualization, it allows us to look at things in an aggregate manner, from a time point of view, from an opportunity stage point of view, from a size point of view, and also from a point of view of each individual opportunities. Now, where we can see, okay, if there are certain opportunities which are pretty new, there are certain opportunities which have been stuck for many days, it can actually give us good insights in terms of prioritizing our effort, so that we can accelerate closure for certain opportunities and smoothen the sales. Another key functions, of course, is territory planning. What areas, what geographies are working well, what's the situation at what, and how do we distribute our effort. That there again, some kind of a visual way in which we can actually look at which accounts, where the accounts are most concentrated or not, they are focused, and what can we do about it, and how do we assign salespersons to and our sales effort to these various territories and accounts. And it really helps if we have a good visual way. Here we can actually see clusters, and based on these we can actually make some good relevant decisions. So having talked about these examples, one of the things that are very clear to all of to us, and in years of our working in analytics for various business functions, is we need to start with what are the information needs. And a great way of doing that is to think about what are the various functions, what are the various aspects of effectiveness which are there for a particular function, for a particular organization, and look at each of them individually, look at what kind of information would help. And again, to think in terms of these three aspects of visibility, control, and action. Action being, includes decision making. If we look at in these three aspects, we can actually uh, think about it in a much more comprehensive manner and identify what a simple example could be. If you are looking at a pipeline, what is the kind of visibility that you want? What is how do you, what would you want to compare that with, and what kind of decisions that you generally make? And based on that, you identify the information needs. So that's the first step that we would urge you to take in terms of, and then of course we can help in that process. The second step is, while we have identified the needs, where is that information? From where do we get that information reliably? What is the quality of that information? In which technology, in which solution, at which location that information resides? And then that takes certain kind of an assessment whether that information is complete, what are the gaps, is the quality right, is the time sensitivity right, is the excess and the policy aspects right, and so on. And those would allow an assessment and an insight into what are the gaps in terms of information that is available. And based on those gaps, and what are the areas of improvement, both in terms of the purposes of the analytics and also in terms of the sources of analytics, we can actually build an overall strategy and a roadmap about how do we go about operationalizing analytics. A typical strategy and roadmap would be essentially a good listing of what our goals are, what our purposes are across the functions. Those purposes, of course, have to be justified in terms of the business goals, overall business priorities, and the context that is in. What are the various technology pieces which are already there, which would be leveraged? So what are the existing investments? What are the gaps there, and what are the specific initiatives which are in a roadmap fashion? What happens now, what happens later, and so on. So once you have that, very important aspect is everyone, or at least most of the key people in the organization, need to bless it, need to be on the same page in terms of what the goals are, what are the priorities are, and so on. Once we have gotten to these stages, that's where detailed analysis, dive into detail, and the implementation process that kicks in. We at Advaya, we help in these aspects, which we, as we talked about earlier, information strategy, where we help our clients with development of a roadmap, which is again based on objectives and gaps. And then we identify right technologies, right data stores, right models, and we go about and implement them. That doesn't really mean that it goes in a waterfall fashion. What it really means is that we are honest to the objectives that we have taken for ourselves. The outcomes must be achieved, and they have to be achieved in a fairly fast and reliable manner. So that's where we come in. So of course, that's exactly what I was talking about. It once we have implemented the data stores for that particular purpose, right kind of a visualization, right kind of data publishing happens. Now this is interesting. One of the things that we did not really show was if the right model is published, if the model is published in such a way that your team can actually make sense of data. The data fields do not look like, let's say, geo_12, but then they look like, they say things what your business says. They say territory, things of that sort. So the model is something where the data linkages, the connections, and everything has been figured out. So when the model is published, your team members can actually take a look at the model and do analysis themselves. They can actually take one aspect, so let's say it's sales by an account for a particular product and sales by an account for another product, put them side by side and see if there are connections. So that comes in this aspect where self-service dashboard, self-service reports can also come in, and that's the part that we talk about. Data discovery and aggregation aspects, where the data is already published in a way that people can make sense of it, and technology allows people to discover that data and draw insights from that. As that cycle goes on, we can identify opportunities where we can apply machine learning, we can apply predictive analytics in a productive manner. Now, here there's a word of caution. There is a lot of hype about AI and ML. And in many cases, they can actually add a lot of value, but in many cases, the plain old data analytics, making sense of data as they are, using our own brains to make sense of it, works the best. So again, that's something that we can help you with, identifying valuable opportunities for actionable analytics. Now, and that cycle goes on. As we go about implementing something, start using it, see value in it, we would probably see more opportunities for improvement, and then we can actually go and operationalize that. One thing that if you are interested, we have organizing, and we have actually conducted quite a few of them already in association with Microsoft. We organize what we call it as Dashboard in a Day workshop. Now, when you as an analyst want to use various data and BI tools like Power BI, this kind of a workshop helps immensely, and in a very short time, in a day, we run you through the entire process of identifying data sources, connecting to them, creating good models, right visualization, and so on. So this workshop would not make you an expert, but that would definitely make you a power user in terms of making sense of sales data. And in this workshop, which we have planned to be doing in Mumbai on the 19th in the Microsoft offices, in this workshop, we would be actually taking sales data and showing how do we actually take multiple sources and go about creating right analysis-based dashboards out of it. So please do register. We will be sharing a link for the same, and we do believe it will be quite useful. Okay, so we would also be sharing a small feedback form, a link to that. We would request you to fill up that form. Okay, we have already shared that form, and with that, we would open the stage for questions and answers. So let me just make sure that you are all so if you have any questions and answers, you can make sure that you put in there. Let me also unmute the attendees. So if you have any questions, perhaps you can put that on the chat window as well. We would be able to take that. Okay, so here is a question. Shweta, I'm not sure what organization she is from. She is asking if it is possible to use social media data for sales analytics. Great question, Shweta. This is something that we can definitely do. In fact, the modern BI technologies and data analytics technologies allow us to connect to social feeds social feeds in a direct way, where not just the social feeds, but then the inferences of that can be easily taken. So in fact, one of the things that we can do is look at what is the sentiment and across the geography. So we can take the Twitter feed and uh, look at the various sentiments about that particular brand or a particular product, and lay it across a map, and one can see that. We can also take a look at social feeds by a certain handle. So one of the interesting things that we can do is, if we have certain accounts and if we have information in terms of who are the people and what are their social handles in that particular account, we can actually actively monitor that, and the bots which are monitoring that account, they can actually sense if there is an interest in a particular product, if there is a particular direction in which those people are thinking, and when we collate and aggregate that data, that can help in terms of having more intelligence about that account, and we can of course make it part of our data model. Those feeds can be connected in any kind of, we can link it to the accounts that we already have, and go about doing analysis on that. Great question, Shweta. So any other question which we might have? Please, I mean, somehow the audio is not working. If you can put that on the chat window. So we have just a few minutes left. So there's this question from, the name isn't there. So there's this question where it's talking about they have multiple CRM systems across the company. Can they be integrated? Okay, so yes, of course, and those multiple CRM systems can be brought into one data model, and that's one of the data aggregation exercises that we do. Now, it could have a lot of complexity, and generally the reason for having multiple CRM systems could be many. It could be because of mergers and acquisitions kind of a thing. It could be because there could have been siloed implementation of various systems. It could be because the locations were located remotely, connectivity options were not there, so different systems. Now, to bring them together, it could be challenging, but then it of course can be done. Now, there could be multiple scenarios there. It could be same CRM system, or it could be multiple CRM systems. So you could have Oracle at one place, Microsoft at another, HubSpot another, or Zoho, and so on. So you could have multiple systems. So the biggest challenge that we have to do is making sure that there is that we bring in homogeneity in the data and the coding of that data. So one of the things that we try and do is make sure that if there are repeating records or repeating entities, or the entities which are common across those implementation, they are identified as such. So if a particular account exists in all these multiple implementation, we create something of a mapping matrix which allows us to give a unified view across those systems. The mapping matrix also addresses the challenges in terms of data cleanliness, where one system would have different representation, other could have, and so for the product, so for the other aspects. There could also be difference in terms of how the data is organized, how the different workflows are. Again, based on the specific situation, we can devise the right strategy, whether it is a unifying strategy where we actually drive a project to make sure that all these implementation start to follow or start to implement a single way of doing things, or where we have a strategy of harmonizing them, where we actually map what a particular process at a particular location is to an abstract overall process, so that all the data, all the information, when it is brought together, is still uh, still making sense. So of course it can be done. The challenges would be depending on what the specifics of the implementation are. And as this question about integration comes in, there are a lot of situations and questions that we get asked about if the data is on-prem, some of the data is in cloud, and all of that. Modern BI systems, they are able to take care of data sources from multiple data sources, multiple locations, in multiple databases, etc. What we do recommend is some kind of unified data infrastructure to be put in place. It could be thought of as a data warehouse, maybe, or it could be thought of as a common unified data model, where all of these various sources, the data from those are extracted, put into a common store, cleansed, homogenized, mapped, and put into a model which then gets published for BI purposes.
And so yeah, and adding on to that, that is what we will be trying to do and help you out in what we will be doing this workshop next month in Mumbai. So we will be kind of working into a similar scenario what question you have asked. So we will be trying to integrate data from all of these various sources, and trying to have a very single data model with all of the values arranged in such a manner that you can really make the sense out of your data, and you don't really have to look into your unclean and unstructured data. We can really just work on from that one particular data model and get the right answers out of your data. So this is what we will be working along with you in the next month's session, which we will be having in Microsoft's office. So it would be a good hands-on exercise for all the attendees who will be joining. So that would really be helpful for all of those.
So great point, Dipesh. So with that, we are at the end of our scheduled time. Thank you very much for attending and some very good questions. Thank you for that. We are a company which is focused on applications and analytics. We are focused on making technology work in such a way that you meet your purposes. And we have a way, and our way essentially tries to capture what are your business objectives and making sure that technology is implemented in you reach those objectives. So that's what we do. We are available for your help. Please reach out to us over email. If you have any other questions, we would be happy to help with your digital transformation initiatives. And thanks again for joining us today, and thanks for great questions. It was a wonderful discussion. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.